Evening, friends and neighbors. Welcome on in. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs, even when they lose, and the NFL. We have plenty, and I mean plenty, to talk about. We're going to go through a number of it, and I see there's a ton of people in here already with questions. We will get to those. If you're new to the channel, do it right now. Hit the like, the sub, and the bell notification so you know when something new goes up. If you're on your phone, you got to put it to all notifications so you get them all, because we have plenty coming for you. We're going to talk about Chiefs, the good and the bad tonight, and there is some good. I just want you all to know that. Our fearless mod, Aaron Morrow, is in the chat already. Welcome, Aaron. Thank you for everything that you do, and welcome all of you diehards. I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see how many people show up tonight, because it's always a challenge when you have not the best weekend out, and that's what it was. A little bit disappointing for me too, even when I try to keep my analyst hat on rather than the fan hat. That's the way that it goes. I'm going to clean this window up here, and I want to start real quick before we get into the questions, and I know there'll be plenty of questions. There is a Monday night game coming on, so I know a lot of you want to get to that. If we don't go the full hour, not a problem. But I just do want to say this. Two things that stood out about this weekend in duality is, one, the Alex Smith complete recovery. To watch him be out there and make passes and play well and get hit and survive, especially with Aaron Donald being out there, it was really gratifying to see. If you missed my interview with Stefania Bell, it was on this channel back in the summer, going off of Project 11. It was on the podcast as well, had a lot of turnout for that. At the same time, the injury to Dak is very, very similar. Lower down on the leg from what I saw. We'll have to see as information comes out. Haven't seen anything specific about it or what the repair was. I heard surgery went well, but that doesn't mean what they did yet. So when I know, you guys will know. It was a severe one, and it was the fact that it wasn't a direct contact. It wasn't breaking with the force trajectory. That's what stood out to me about that. And I've had a couple of people ask, both here in the comments on Twitter as well, about breaking that down. And this is an NFL channel, so eventually I'll do something on Dak as well when we know a little bit more information that I can get into a little bit. That said, the Chiefs had not their greatest day. And I say that because they had some decent offensive output, but they left so much on the bone. That's why it's concerning, because so far this season, coming off of a Super Bowl, it's not the hangover the 49ers are experiencing. That's true, but it is somewhat that they're not putting the nails in the coffin. They're not blowing teams out that they should, and they let a team that really shouldn't be that capable of keeping up with them be right in it and steal a game from them. And that's what it is. If you're a Raiders fan in here tonight, we'll welcome all, but let's keep it real. I try to make sure that I am right down the middle in terms of bias. I try to make sure that I'm an analyst first and a fan second. And even some Raiders fans have noticed that. I got quite a number of positive comments last week from some Raiders fans. So if you're in here tonight, let's keep it from the trolling crap. I don't want to see that in here tonight. Aaron and I will boot anybody that does it, but we're going to talk real. The Raiders got the best of them for a reason, for a couple of reasons. We'll start here with the questions now. First one in was Steve Concepcion. How are you, Steve? Why do people keep playing Dirty Dan at deep safety? It's because they are not being specific. The coaching staff feels that they have a well-rounded group of safeties, and they do. Dan is well-rounded, just like everybody else. It's just that his strengths are closer to the line of scrimmage than they are deep in space. But he can do something in space. We've seen him make plays back there, usually from a split safety, not from a high safety himself. But even in a split, sometimes it's just overwhelming for him. It's not the visual instinctual thing. You saw what he did, especially last year in the playoffs against what was a quick happening play. He snuffed out that fake punt as well. Like, he does great things. It's just not his forte, and it left him in a bad position, and it cost them. Further, Steve, is the poor play because the defense due to schematic issues, personnel issues, or both? A bit of both. Like I said, with their safety group, they want to play them all like they're interchangeable. They're not. They all overlap somewhat. If you had the Venn diagram, they'd all be circles that have something in the middle where they all meet. But as much as Dan can't play at the back, he's good up front. Tedrick Thompson has been solid in the middle, in the robber kind of role. Tyron obviously is great at the nickel corner rather than the deep safety as well. He can play deep safety, but you saw even Tyrann Mathieu got taken advantage of this weekend on that deep touchdown to Aguilar. Just a little bit late in making his turn. It looked to me like he stumbled a little bit. I don't know if the All-22 is out. We just did the podcast here in the last hour or two, so I haven't had a chance to get back to that. But if it's out already, I'll be reviewing that. Dan will have film for you Wednesday. I'll do the stat review, and I might throw some film in if we get it early. Now that we had a semi-normal week, it's a nice concept, especially given we're going to have another Monday night week next week, which contorts everything. But the scheme, the players, it all goes together. It is a bit of both. And despite liking what they have at safety, I think they need to be a little bit more specific about the schemes they play with which personnel packages. Who's in the game, I think, has to make a little bit more difference than what we saw this last week. I feel like Spags called what he called, and the players had to adapt to it, and I think that was a little bit too far in some cases, including being when Dan was playing deep. Now, to finish your thought, I think this is your last one. Or no, you had a couple here. If you had to choose one player on the defense that needs to step up his game, who would it be? It would be Anthony Hitchens, without a doubt. Tyrann had a bad weekend. I'll give him that. Frank had a bad weekend. I'll give him that. Chris Jones played well. I like what Derek Notty's doing. I think Willie Gay's coming on, but I'll give you an example later because I'm sure we'll talk about Hitch, and it's part of this question, whether it's Hitch doing things. He still hesitated. I know PFF said he had the best game of his career. Not in my opinion. He missed some plays that he should have been there to make, period. Just because he didn't miss tackles doesn't mean that he had a positive game. And there are places at times, in fact, I can probably do a little bit of a screen share here and give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And I don't want to focus on it yet, but this is Hitchens way down here. We're going to get into this play. This is just a screenshot of one of the touchdown runs, and it was a problem. It's not something that we want to see again. We'll get into that in a bit. I do want to mention, looks like there's a super chat already. I'm going to try to get through these so I can get down to them. If you want to support the channel, thank you for your super chat. Feel free to put them out there. Anybody who supports the channel, I give you big credit. Next week, you're going to see last month's contributors, and the memberships are coming up. They're just about finalized. And then we'll have an even bigger crew of folks that support the channel. And I really do appreciate it. It lets me do things like bring on Dan, and Danilo's coming on now too. And we're going to try to expand and give you this team from a 360 angle that no one else can do on this platform if they're not part of the team's media. So keep that in mind as well. How much of the loss is on Andy? A decent portion of it. They didn't adapt well. In fact, I think that's what I named part of this in the podcast description today. They just didn't adapt. It took too long. It took too rigid a way that they were trying to make up for that. Andy has more tricks in his bag, and he needs to get to him sooner. Not the trick plays. I just mean he has basics of how to beat some of these coverages, especially when you're only sending 3, and that's something we're going to have to talk about too. What's wrong with the running game is that the offensive line isn't getting push. You saw what they did. They actually followed my advice for once, Steve, and they started hitting the corners, hitting the edges with the pitches. We saw that early in the game, and it was working. They went away from it. They got stuck in trying to keep up points-wise, and he fell back into old habits and called a lot of passes. 11 called runs in the game. 7 of them were in the first half. That's not balanced, and that's not good. I think that could help them win, too. Oregon Chief Chris, glad you're here. This text is crushing me, though. It's a little bit small. Would you rather see Willie Gay or Neiman versus Neiman and let him learn through trial by fire, or then have such a huge liability out there? Same with Sorensen and Thompson. I think Sorensen and the Willie Gay, Ben Neiman question are completely different. Sorensen has so much experience over Tedrick Thompson, particularly in the scheme itself and over Watts. It's just that he needs to be one of the front 2 safeties out of the 4 or the 3, depending on what you're doing. I would prefer to see Willie Gay out there. I'd rather take my chances with inexperience with him, knowing that he has the ability to recover athletically. So even if he gets himself in a bad read, in a bad spot, he has the athleticism to try and make up for it. I would rather lose that way or give up big plays that way than having a guy that you know from the beginning is not matched up very well. I think that puts Neiman in a bad position, and I think it makes it tough. I think they could play together in the nickel, though, especially with Neiman coming downhill a lot more often or not being asked to carry tight ends in particular deep. That would be my thing. Good question, Chris. Aaron's here. I like it. Sorry, folks. I went all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to try to go fast tonight. Tactics. Explain the greatness of Trent Green. This is not a flashback show, buddy. At some point in the members, we'll get to all those things. Trent Green was great because he let his players make the best of what they could do. He got them the ball when he could. Didn't have the hugest arm. Didn't have the escapability. He used his weapons to the best of his ability. And quite frankly, he had the best line in football at that time and arguably one of the better in the history of the game. Tactics again. If Jamal was 10 out of 10, what was Kareem, LJ, and Holmes? If Jamal's 10 out of 10, so is Holmes in different ways. But yes, LJ was a 9. Kareem's a 7 at this point. I got to see way more from Kareem before I'm past that. Only on skill. Don't take points off for, those things. Just breakaway speed is what's going to haul back Kareem. Pass catching ability wasn't the greatest for LJ, but it was there. So that's where I'm coming from. Let's see. Tactics. You got a lot of good ones tonight. If Tyreek Hill's draft report, they said that he would get out of bounds instead of get more yards to avoid getting hit. Is this true? And is it necessarily a bad thing? No, it is not necessarily a bad thing, particularly at the NFL level. And I can't answer the first one. I never was able to find any film on him in college. Reportedly, he got some time at Oklahoma State before he got dismissed. I could never find him on film. I honestly didn't have the resources then that I have now. So I didn't dig. I wasn't able to dig quite as deep. But no, I really can't confirm that or not. Steve, has the defense found its identity yet? No, not quite yet. They're trying and they're getting closer, but they're taking a few too many things for granted. And they're letting some of their situational awareness override their assignments. That's what happened with the safeties this week. Good one. Let's see. Question marks. Oh, also for anybody who is new to the channel, put your question marks at the beginning, please. If you do that, then I can find them easier and you don't have to yell at Aaron to yell at me because I'm blind. That's the way it goes. Let's see. Dennis, why does it seem that the offense just isn't hitting on all cylinders? Apart from the Ravens game, they haven't been that impressive this year. I mean, they're putting up 30 points a game, but I do get your point. And it's because they didn't have a preseason. They just now are getting out of the preseason. Quite frankly, they've had 2 cases, I think, both against in-division rivals that I think they took them for granted a little bit. I think that they thought that they had the game won without actually playing it. That's my personal opinion. And that comes back not only to the players, the leading players, the leaders in the locker room, as well as the coach. You have to, it's hard to not let your confidence creep in, but you have to treat everybody like they can beat you on any given day because they can. It's just that simple. I know it's a cliche and all that, but it's true. Anybody can win any day. JC, how are you? How can Mahomes' offense get past the 4-man rush and all the man coverage? The man coverage isn't the big thing. It's the deep safeties. They're playing 2 and 3 deep safeties. We're seeing some straight zones. There's a lot of guys out there. And so what you have to have is, I talked about this on the podcast, you either have to design leveled routes, which Andy does, but you have to emphasize some of the tighter drags underneath. You have to hit the 8-yard pass plays, either in breaking routes. I don't like the outs, although Mahomes' arm is so strong it shouldn't matter, but I like the drags. I like the pivots. You need to hit stuff that's not behind the line of scrimmage, but is short yardage. You know what I mean? So that you're still moving the chains forward. The other thing is you still want to have your deep routes. You still want to attack deep. But when things break down, players right now are either continuing deep or breaking across, and that's fine. They have to start doing what other teams' quarterbacks have to do because there's so many guys in coverage, the zones are smaller. They have to work back to Patrick. They can't just go out and then go sideways. They have to work back to Patrick a little bit and give him a target where their body is between him and the defender. And that allows him to put the ball in smaller windows. Honestly, If Travis had been running that crossing route on the interception and been working back to him, that's not an interception because the off safety doesn't have the time to undercut him and get to the ball. That's really what it comes to. And that's an adjustment because we've been telling them for years. Patrick's been yelling at him, keep on running. That means downfield or cross, right? Well, now they got to work back some too, especially if you're at one of the levels in the intermediate zone. Thomas Passwater, how are you? You were one of the big contributors last month. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you again. Why are the veteran players looking so confused? I think it's not that they're confused. I think that they're comfortable in the scheme, and I think they're assuming that a lot of the young guys or the new guys are as well, and that's not necessarily the case. You saw something where Tyron and Hitch had some miscommunication on one of the runs, and it's an assumption that you know what you're doing. I don't think everyone does, and you got to cover all the bases. You got to keep it simple and make sure everybody's on the same page. Michael, how can we rebuild the offensive line in the future? Got to keep Pat safe. Well, it's coming. They're going to have to get new tackles. I don't think it's going to be next year or the year after that, but it's coming. Excuse me. Tonight's beer, by the way, cheers to everyone. This is my version of Tank 7 that I made here at home. That said, a lot of the pressure so far this year has come around from Eric Fisher's side. I'm not saying that's the end of the world. He'll get a handle on it. But he and Mitch are both getting up there in age, and eventually they're going to have to replace them. I think you're going to get LDT back next year. We'll have to see how it all goes, but that's going to be key. Wiley gave up a lot of pressure this last weekend, and I think in general, I think they need an upgrade at that spot. I'm really disappointed about Assembly because I thought he was playing well in a scheme that doesn't really fit his skill set, being more of a power guy, less of a zone guy. I was really happy with his adaptation. Yes, he's had more penalties than I would like, but to see him have such a devastating injury, I'm really disappointed about that. So they're going to have to invest. And I don't think it can be in free agency. I think that the cap situation is going to have to be, second and third round linemen in the next couple of years. Evgeny, hope you're doing well. Is defensive failure more on coaching or the players? It looked to me from what I saw, the vast majority of it was players. The safeties made mistakes on all the long touchdowns. The linebackers were not being adequate in their assignments in the run game, especially on the scoring plays. Now, that might have some coaching influence in there if they're trying to keep the linebackers, available, not attacking down for over penetration, getting out of position, that kind of thing. Sometimes coaches coach like that. I don't think that's it. I expect Matt House to be more aggressive and Spags as well. I think they have to get more out of the aggressive side of the linebackers. Really like what Willie Gay did. I think he is the guy that can change it all because he can play coverage and he seems very willing to attack and blitz. And I think they have to get into more of that. Let's see, folks. I'm not trying to ignore you. I promise. I'm just going by where the question marks are. So if you have one, make sure you throw those out. Pie Dessert, again, another longtime contributor. Thank you very much. And I see that I'm falling behind here. So did this prove that we didn't have rabbits in our hats, keeping a more vanilla offense? We were looking too far ahead for Buffalo, or we got beat and refused to pull anything out too soon. I don't even know if it was that. I do think they overlooked the Raiders and we're looking too far ahead at Buffalo. I don't think it was particularly about pulling plays out, though. I think the majority of it was executing like you had to compete instead of just walking on the field like you're the Super Bowl champs. We're the Chiefs. We're going to beat you. We've smashed this division for so long. I think there was just a letdown in intensity, to tell you the truth, because it looked like confusion, some miscommunication on a number of levels. One that I will talk about in the film review here tomorrow or Thursday. Peyton, is it possible the O-line gets their act together because of more playing time, or is there just a turning point where you can't come back from? No, they can certainly pull it together. It's about communication, and it's also about communication between the quarterback and the line. Has to stop that. The drifting thing is part of the issue too. I think people are blowing it a little bit farther out of proportion than it has to be, but it is part of the equation of what's going wrong. Let's see. Scotty Flamingo, I disagree. I think there is some running game. Pie Dessert, what about the defense can to protect speed over the top? What do we do with Dan and Ben? That's the problem. You don't have options for that. Tedrick Thompson's decent, but it's about playing Juan high, and they want to be interchangeable. They want Juan to be able to come down sometimes, right? That just doesn't work. We saw that. Everybody else who played deep gave up big plays. Juan has to be the single high guy. Preferably, I'd like to see him with someone else in a two high to protect over the top, like you said, because teams are going to have to do that more and more to try to keep up. Don't be too worried. The Chiefs offense is going to keep scoring at this rate. They just have to get to the point where they're not giving up, blowing opportunities. Aaron, of course, how much do you think we're looking past the Raiders at Buffalo? I think quite a bit. I would say that was over 50% of the problem. Brian Winmeyer, is the town on the roster to fix the O-line issues, or do you think it will be a struggle all year? I think it's going to be a struggle now that Assembly's out. You could deal with having one starter out, LDT, and having a backup in there. Now having both your guards be backups, it's going to be difficult. I don't think there's anybody they're going to trade for by the trade deadline, and I just don't see anybody else coming up that's really going to be an impact. So it's going to be come together or perish. That's really what it's going to turn into. Johnny, how do we respond to Raider fans' trash talk? Literally say thank you and look at the ring. That's enough. Don't worry about it. Get a picture of the ring so you can just throw it at. Julian, Mahomes was moving a lot. Is this going to affect him in the long run? Hopefully not. What he did a good job about is, even though he got out and he scrambled quite a bit, he didn't take big hits. He's getting good about making sure that he gets out of bounds well ahead of trying to push for that extra yard. It's one thing if you're stretching for a first down, but there's no reason to stretch and get hit. Chris Pete, thank you very much. I appreciate the support with the super chat. Thank you, sir. And I know there were several others. I want to make sure that I'm not missing them. So I will get to you guys shortly. Problematic O-line or linebackers? Man, it's a toss-up right now. My bigger issue is with the linebackers. Chiefs offense still put up 32 points, so they're doing some things right. Hot and spicy. Why is Ben even getting snaps? Because he played well in coverage last year. He really did. They dropped him into some of the deeper zones out of the linebacker spot, and it worked. They're asking him to do more things. I see more snaps where he has to run with somebody, and that's different. That's not something he's prepared for enough. And quite frankly, he's never been a take-on guy. So he's not going to come downhill and punch somebody in the face. It's just not what he does. Pie Dessert, who steps up on offense the biggest after these brutal injuries? I'm really looking for Pringle to bring a spark. I think that he can, and I think that he will. I like his game and what he brings, and he's going to get more reps with Sammy down. Nick Dodd, do you think Willie Gay should start more because our backer play is terrible? He's already starting, so I start more. No, I mean, because you can't really start more than once a game, but I think he needs to play more, and I think they need to start getting him onto the field in the nickel. I know they've been reluctant. They wanted to bring him along in the nickel packages a little bit more. I think those days are gone. I think you have to get your best athlete at the position on the field. The problem is the way that he plays is pretty aggressive, and I love that, but it does open you up for injuries too. So you could overplay him too many snaps and end up getting him hurt, in which case you're right back to where you were. So that is the concern. I can understand why they're going to kind of slow play it a little bit. Let's see. Concerns about Ward. I think Ward was a hand. I think it was bothering him. I think it made it hard for him to press, certainly. And you know, there's always a little bit of grabbing out there on the edge with the corners, and I think that certainly limited his play as well. I want to see him get better, though. You guys know how I feel about him. I still want to see progression. The hand has set him back. Once that's healed, hopefully he can continue that. But right now, to have Breezy make plays right away and you still don't see that from Ward, that is something that's going to be a comparison going forward, especially when you have LJ Snead coming in and making the plays he is. They got to get him back pretty soon, too. It's still going to be another month, if not more. It all depends on the healing process. I know he's been active on social media saying a couple of things. I don't know what any of it means, you guys. So wish I did. Jacob, is most of the online looking really bad at Patrick's fault or both? It's both. And more importantly, it's not working together. It's okay. Like Jeff Schwartz put on Twitter, you know, the expectation is a 10-yard drop at most. Well, Patrick drops farther than that. The tackles need to know that. And if that's what it's going to be, they can adjust in terms of the angles that the pass rushers take to get to Pat. But you have to communicate that. They have to come up with a way to designate those calls. And the big problem is it's not just the biggest issue to me. I'm sorry. It's not the drops. It's allowing 3 guys to get pressure. I don't care how far he drops back. 5-on-3 should be a win for the offensive line every single time. That's what's not acceptable to me. And I think, again, that is partially because of the angles, but it's partially because of the guys up front. So it really is a balance of what's going on there. Spicy, do you think Spags is scared that Willie is going to make too much rookie mistakes? Yeah, I mean, that's always the fear, right? That's what experienced coaches dread the most. But I think at this point, in my personal opinion, it's worth the risk given the play that you're getting from the other guys. And it's not particularly close. Cooper, why does Ben Neiman continue to get chances? Because they like him, and he's come through for them in the past. So it's going to be a bit, you guys. Go ahead, doubters. As long as we have PM and this group of competitors, I'll take us. Yeah, hey, I'm with you. You got it, Chris. Michael, Bieniemy's name is a hot commodity this week. Where do you think he's the best fit for the Texans, Falcons, Jets, or someone else? It's not the Jets. If I'm Eric Bieniemy, I don't want to go to the Texans. I don't think that the organization is particularly well suited to support him. I don't think that it's particularly well suited to drafting guys or honestly scouting guys that can bring the flavor of the West Coast that Eric will bring to his new team. I don't think that's it. Yes, he's got some solid defensive players, but JJ Watt is at the end of his career, you guys. He's got a couple of years left. He's not getting younger. The one thing is, in Deshaun Watson, you have an ace quarterback for the next 5 to 8 years. That is a heavy draw. The Jets don't have that. The Falcons have a very good quarterback, but you only have him for 2 or 3 years. So that's the thing. Right now, I would really lean towards the Falcons job if I'm Eric Bieniemy, because you've seen that you're going to get some time there. It feels like Arthur Blank is loyal to his guys. It feels like it's an organization you can sink your teeth into, and they're steady. It doesn't feel to me. I mean, the Falcons have been steady to the point of their own detriment. It feels like the Texans don't know where they're going or what they're doing. So I am not certain that that's the best place for him. And if the Broncos don't turn things around, I think they might move on from Vic Fangio too. And I think that is a very good place for Eric Bieniemy. I will not like to see him across the aisle in the AFC West, but I think he might think that that's the best place for him. So he may just let it ride and see what happens. Ryan, any chance that we see more Thompson Watts playing safety instead of Sorensen? No. Thompson's already getting snaps, and they're going to live with Dan's mistakes because they like him. I just hope that they get more specific about the calls, about where he's placed, rather than trying to get him to act as though he's a free safety type. And I think if the coaches can make that adjustment, he can stay up in the closer area to the line of scrimmage and be productive and be solid. It's when you take linebackers out, and this is where I was going to show you guys before we get to Stevie's super chat. I'm going to show you guys this screen again because this is what bothered me. And I'll probably go over this in the film. So this is just like a preview here. And this is what I'm talking about. This is I think it's the first running touchdown. There was some miscommunication before this still was taken. But this is what happened. Between the decision point of Tyrann Mathieu and Anthony Hitchens, they made the decision here with double tight, another tight end in motion, and a fullback. They've walked Damian Wilson up to the line, and they decided that that's enough. This is Anthony Hitchens way out here, and this is Dan Sorensen up behind the line of scrimmage. This play went for a touchdown. That's a problem. That's a misalignment. It doesn't matter what the call was. You have the wrong personnel doing the wrong job. If you're worried about a tight end leak or stringing out with an outside pitch here or these backs releasing, Dan Sorensen is just as quick, if not quicker, than Hitchens. Yes, he misses more tackles, but you got to take that chance with speed out here and allow Hitchens to attack the middle like a linebacker does, not Dan Sorensen. This, I think, was not only unfortunate, but I think it was something that could have been remedied. This was another miscommunication on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think playing Thompson and Watts is going to change any of that. You have to get back to doing those things better. Stevie, if you were Veach, you could make a trade with a team having a poor start and pick a player on it to fill a problematic area. Who would you and who would it be? I mean, quite frankly, I would go to Atlanta and I would see if you could wrangle Deion Jones away from them. Because Deion is a coverage linebacker that can come up and play forward. You pair him with Willie Gay, and you might have the best nickel linebacker tandem in the league in 2 years, something like that. That's the one guy right off the top of my head that I would go, pursue about trading for if I really felt I needed to. I will say this too. I don't think that Brett Veach will feel that way, so I don't expect it happening. But Stevie, thank you as always for the super chat and everyone else who has and all the support that you guys give us. We really appreciate it. Andy, Sorensen looked terrible even up front pursuing the runs. Who can replace him with? You really don't have an option. He's the third safety. Behind him is Tedrick Thompson, who's already playing snaps. Behind him is Armani Watts. That's it. So in terms of the position, I don't think you can sub him in. Now, L'Jarius Sneed has played some safety. When he gets back, you could think about that. But quite frankly, he's been playing lights out at corner. He needs to stay at corner. They need the help out there as well. And honestly, this was Dan having some breakdowns. If they get back to leaving Juan high and not messing around with where his placement is, he can be the field general back there, and I think they can be very, very solid once again. This was a one-game breakdown, you guys. This is still the team that only gave up less than 20 points a game the first four. So, yes, it was a significant letdown, but they can get it back on track without a problem. Isaac, do you think that we'll have to do to win this game against the Bills next week? You have to not give the ball away. You have to not miss your opportunities. They scored. I started doing the stats for the stat review on Tuesday. They scored on they scored on 5 of 11 drives. You got to do better than that. And quite frankly, they allowed way too many drives to score for the opponent. The defense has to step up. The offense has to take the advantage of what they have. They have to stop with the penalties. They have to stop missing the easy plays or the plays that actually evolved the way that they were designed, and you have to take advantage of it all. Let's see. Okay, who's next? Hot and spicy. Did this game remind you of the Texans from last year? It absolutely did. It just felt like they never got going. Michael, just have underutilized and neglected Le'Veon Bell. Never in my lifetime would I sign Le'Veon Bell anywhere. No, he is A's a running back that can't help. I'm not taking any snaps away from Clyde, period. And he's not a team guy. Le'Veon is about Le'Veon. Adam, Evening Kingdom, listen to the hospital. Oh, hey, congratulations, buddy. Child number 3. I like it. This morning and had a blessed night. Good for you. I'm very happy to hear it. Congratulations. Will RSJ ever play? Man, I wish I knew. I wish they had him last weekend. Ricky Seals-Jones is a question mark. He got hurt in camp. We haven't seen him. I hope that they can get him around and get him moving. We'll see. Which bugs you more, losing the Raiders or losing the Broncos? It's a toss-up. Probably the Raiders, but that's just me. Scott, why in the world did Big Red not challenge those 2 bad calls? I was calling for that too. It was pretty egregious. I definitely would have thrown the red flag for the second one for sure. And honestly, that's just the information that you have at the time. And I can't tell you why, but that's what he and the guys that are in the booth that were looking at it decided. Do you think that the defensive players are jealous of not getting enough credit and the offense gets all the attention? Jealous? No. I think they want more respect. And I think they were on their way to earning it until they let down this week. And so let that be a lesson to them. You want respect. You want to be talked about with as the offense is. Put out. Stop teams. And I think they'll get back to that. I think this actually will be a week that is useful for this team overall, and I think they'll make headway. Ryan White, the shotgun run is awful. It is just Andy wants everything to look the same. Or why does he refuse to just line up in the I formation or pro sets? It's because he wants to be able to throw on every down if he has to. And it's just not a priority for him. He is a believer in the efficiency of the pass game. He'll run because he knows he has to some. It doesn't mean that he wants to. And so they don't spend time practicing I sets very often. They don't spend time practicing even pro sets. I'd like to see split backs even. I think there are a lot of creative things that you can do, because one of the things that I said today is if you have a light box and you're getting a 3-man rush, you have to be able to check to a run. You have to. You have to have that as an option. I'm not sure that's on the table right now. Adam, do you still think that the Raiders and Chargers games were trap games since we have owned the division? The Chargers, yes. This one, no. I mean, this was a real game. They should have known that. This wasn't a trap. This is a team that's been up and coming, and they knew they had Ruggs. They scouted Ruggs. They wanted Ruggs. They should have known that. Was Schwartz's worst game? Was this Schwartz's worst game as the Chief? No. I don't think he gave up 2 or 3 pressures. It was not Schwartz's worst game, honestly. He had a rough game against Joey Bosa in week 2, but this wasn't it. Evgeny, with injuries piling up already, what player on offense and defensive Chiefs absolutely cannot afford to lose, excluding Mahomes, Matthew, or Chris Jones? Things will break down without Juan Thornhill. If he were to get hurt or miss time again, it will be ugly. You will see more of what you saw this last weekend. If they lose Travis Kelce, that would be ugly as well. I don't see either of those things happening. So I think they're going to be fine. But that's what's – those are the 2 guys that on either side of the ball I think you have to have in order to keep things running. Now, you can adapt, but I don't think that's easy. Slick Lemons, how are you? Watson is down again. It happens every year. He goes out for games, no question. Just upset. He's always hurt. Okay. I get that. Vent a little, man. I'm with you. It is just something that is part of Sammy's role. He's just always going to have some little things. Hopefully it's not a severe injury and it's just a couple of weeks. And quite frankly, that's why they have depth at the wide receiver position. Curtis, thank you for your support. Appreciate it. Why is Ricky Seals-Jones still on the practice squad and not the roster? I thought when we signed him, he's not right now. And I have to think that it's either learning the offense or it's a physical thing. He was hurt for a long while. They don't designate practice squad players, so I don't know what his health is right now. But you're right. And I'm glad to see Yelder back out there. Yelder was hurt for a long time too. And Yelder, when healthy, has some things that he can offer athletically as well. He doesn't look like he's fully healthy to me right now, though. He doesn't look like he's as explosive as he was. So that's something to consider. Thanks, Curtis. Chris, why do you think they aren't using Clyde's full route tree in the passing game? It seems like a lot of dump offs in the flats. I think some of that is saving for later in the year. And quite frankly, some of it that they are not trying to do that. That's not their goal. They want to go downfield to the other pass catchers. I think they're going to come around to the fact that if everybody's playing deep, you have to use Clyde more underneath. And you have to drag and pivot route the tight ends more. And maybe even the slots if you go 4 wides. Michael, do you agree if Tyreek uses his speed to hit the corner instead of turning up the field and try to muscle into the defense to get a 3rd and 2nd down on that 1st down? I'm okay with him turning the corner and going out of bounds, I got to tell you. He's a thick dude, but he is small. And we know what the offense did last year when he wasn't in it. So if I had to pick a 3rd guy right after Travis Kelce, it would be Tyreek Hill. So I don't need him to pound out yards and try to get that any better. Quite frankly, they shouldn't need to, especially with Pat throwing the ball. Let's see. Gabe, does Patrick Mahomes seem like he's regressed since 2018? He doesn't look like he's regressed to me, no. I think that he's not picking up on the newest things as quickly as we saw last year. But I think the things that are being thrown at him are a lot more complex. You're seeing a lot of guys deep. And if he can't get guys open, when there's more guys in coverage, the zones are all smaller. If they're in man and zone on top, it makes things harder as well. So it's got to be adjustment of the route tree. You got to bring things in. You got to put it where they ain't. At the end of the day, this whole game is about putting things where they're not covering them. And I think that still has to be some adjustment. Some of that is calls at the line from Patrick, and some of that is Andy Reid. How well does Snead match up against the speed of Ruggs? He's very, very close. Ruggs has him by maybe a step, but you saw Fenton keep up with him. So it's about the cushion, and it's about when you turn and run. In terms of flat out time, from the numbers that I have, and Ruggs didn't run at the combine. It was not official, I don't think. I think he's got him by like 0.04 is what I have written down in my notes. So that's pretty dang close. I'll put Snead on him one-on-one and feel very comfortable with it. Not a problem. Michael, do we keep pushing low percentage throws on third down and then shorter throws? Why do we? That's the quarterback's discretion. You live and die. It's a two-edged sword. Patrick will break the pocket, sometimes well, sometimes not. And he will throw deep, sometimes well, sometimes not. That is the two-edged sword of Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, it's been all upside to this point. Now you're seeing a couple of times. He really shouldn't have thrown that interception. If he would have just pulled it back, it would have been fine. And I will show that play in particular on the film room this week. Dan's going to do a film session as well. We're going to make sure that we do different plays. So make sure you guys check them both out. Let's see. Jimmy. Why in heckfire is wrong with the punt kickoff return? It's just a lack of reps. With no preseason, it's just a lack of reps. I think they'll hit their stride by midseason. Would you like to see more 12, 21, and 22 personnel? Absolutely. I would love that. That's not necessarily going to fix the problem, though. It's, again, it would change the defenses. It would not allow them to do what they were doing, and I certainly would love it, Stevie. I don't think Andy will ever do it, though. How do you feel about the defense going forward? Do you think that they'll continue to have issues? I think they have to get themselves together, and they have to get consistent. So that may leave some issues popping up from now and then. But in terms of long-term productivity, I'm comfortable with the guys that they have. I do want to see some changes to the lineup. And beyond this season, they got to get more depth at corner and more depth at linebacker. And they might even need another D tackle. We'll see. Ryan White, how do you keep a team up for a game when they're clearly more talented than the opponent? That's the problem. Do you think this happens this week, and what Andy must do going forward to get these guys focused? You know, I can't speak to that. Coach Reid he's a football genius. I'm not that guy. All I know is that it's got to be something you can't hope for. You can't leave it all up to the players all the time. And I think sometimes Andy Reid likes to be hands off, but the locker room leaders run the locker room. I think he just needs to reinforce a little bit more. That's my personal take. I'm not in those meetings. I don't know. I know the Chiefs media group, if you guys are watching this, I'm not saying Coach Reid's a bum. I'm saying I think that he can afford to be a little more forceful with what he wants in order to avoid some of these things. Let's see. Jeremy, how do you feel about all the missed tackles? You know, it was a struggle. I thought you saw it bad early. Week 4, they only had 4 missed tackles. This week, by the early count, it's 6. I think there's actually 1 or 2 more in there. So again, it's about discipline. If they can keep it 5 or under a game, I think they're going to be just fine. Curtis, thoughts on Osemele being able to recover? He's not. We got word late tonight that this is a significant one. I don't think that he's going to be back this year. Does that most likely end his career? No, not necessarily. If this was ligaments connecting bone to bone, ACLs, MCLs, PCLs, then I would say, yeah, this might be the end. But it's tendons, which means you're attaching bone to muscle. Muscle can recover. You can rebuild it. I am not that worried about an end of a career right now. I'm certainly hoping not for it, but it is a 1-year contract, so you don't know if he'll even be back. But I like what he's done to this point. Let's see. Ryan White. Again, folks, if you're new to the channel, make sure you put a couple question marks at the beginning. That helps me find them. Which position group is the most disappointing? Yours are linebackers, D-line, safeties, spell disaster for the defense. No, it was one game. If they can't get any of those things fixed and they continue to be problems, then yeah, that will. But I'm not there yet. Steve, did the Raiders out-chief the Chiefs? They're the only team capable of doing that. Yeah, probably. There's a heavy underestimation there too, man. The Chiefs out-chief the Chiefs. Erica, hello. Welcome from Finland. I appreciate that very much. I have family in Norway as well, so I hope that you're enjoying your year to this point. And yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make some trips here when things are normal again. So hello in Finland. Hope you all are doing well. Stevie, was Mahomes short-arming some throws? He looked really inaccurate. I wasn't so sure about the short-arming, but yeah, there were accuracy issues. He missed a couple of things yesterday. That was concerning to me. Hot and spicy, is Mahomes dropping back a serious problem? It's part of the problem. It's not the only thing. The offensive line needs to stop people too, but they do need to work together more. The big thing is communicating about where he's going to drop to and keep forward of that. And he does need more help from the offensive line too. Is it possible that some of the Chiefs are subconsciously repping games in their head? Maybe. There's also, I think, a heavy thing where there are players that don't get concerned enough when they go behind because they know they have Mahomes. I think there is a serious undercurrent of, hey, we can make a couple of mistakes. It's going to be all right because Pat will bail us out. That has to stop. Everybody has to pull their oar. Everybody has to get those wins. During the second half, there was one kickoff where Fenton was the return. It was a touchback, but we have Hill, Hardman, Pringle, etc. What was up with that? They don't want to get any of those guys hurt. I personally would have put Pringle back there if you don't want Hill and Hardman, which I think is part of it. But Fenton's also tough and, quite frankly, a thicker built guy, so he can take a little bit more punishment. Michael, looks like the Bills are releasing off of IR a center who plays guard too, Evan Boehm. Should we take a look at him? No, I was not impressed with him coming out. From what I remember, zone was kind of a stretch for him. He was more of a power guy. So no, I really don't think so. You never know. At this point, they're a little bit desperate. So they might, you never know, but I personally would not. Carlos, cheers back at you, buddy. Nipper Girl, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate the support. Scrolled too far, you guys. Oh, Aaron, I missed the super chat that was right below Miss Nipper Girl. Could you grab that for me again? I can't scroll any farther back. Thanks, buddy. That was before. Oh, good Lord. I'm like 25 minutes late. I'm way behind you guys. Why is Andy so stubborn to ditch the lawn developing routes? That's my question. He certainly got him in the bag of tricks. He just needs to dig in there and go for it. I think he wants to do and not limit his quarterback. Let his quarterback be creative and be who he is. But I think he does need to put those in. I want to see more levels. How about the Breeland pick? Yeah, right, Morbian? Just coming back, looking pretty spry, looking like Breeland. Made a big play, missed some tackles. You know, it's not all perfect, but yeah, I'm glad Breeland's back. He seems like he's a guy off the field that learned his lessons too. He seems very contrite. Because that thing with the cop, that was pretty ridiculous. I don't want to see that from a Chiefs player ever again. I found myself constantly yelling, why are you just sitting there watching someone else tackle? You're absolutely right, Aaron. It's a problem. And it's a problem with the linebackers not coming down through the hole, coming to the hole and sitting there, waiting for the offense to come to them. That's how you get blown out of things. Okay, I answered this one already. So it seems like every time Pringle gets a chance, he makes an impactful play, and PM seems to look from him. Why aren't they listening to us, Ryan? I don't know, man. Pringle made that really great catch coming back to Mahomes against Indy last year. He's proven he can do it, and I hope that he gets a chance. I hope they don't stick to Marcus Robinson in there for 60% of the snaps. I really don't want to see that. Why did they leave it? Okay. Yep. That's why, because he had done it in college a little bit. Do you think the Chiefs have given up on DOD? I would like to see him in the nickel a few more snaps. It seems like they have determined that he can't do what they want him to do. I can't say that they gave up on him, but it doesn't seem like they have faith in what he can contribute at this point. Does Jeremy Chin remind you of more athletic Dan Sorensen? No. Jeremy Chin reminds me of what's his name? The big Seattle safety, the Hammer. Oh, his name's escaping me right now, but you guys know who I'm talking about. That's who Chin reminded me of, especially when I watched his college stuff. He would have been a great fit here. Scott Mann, was it me or did everybody look like they were giving 70%? Part of it is they just didn't seem that up for the game. I agree with you, and I think that's, again, looking past them a little bit. Who else? Getting there, you guys. I'm sorry I'm so far behind. Adam, are we missing Reggie Ragland? Yes, a little bit. You put him and Damian out there, and you might be able to get some of these runs stopped. Are you saying that the Raiders are you saying the Raiders because of the in-laws? My in-laws are Broncos fans, not Raiders fans. Don't worry about it. Oh, is that why you're saying that I dislike the Raiders more? No, that's not it. Actually, I got them all wearing Chiefs red now anyway, so it doesn't matter. Do we fall to the Bills? That's a very good question, Justin, and one that I am highly, highly keyed to see. I think this is a snapback that puts them in the right frame of mind to actually beat the Bills. That's where I'm going to go with for right now until I see something that tells me different. Just got in answered anything about the line. Talked a ton about the line. It's not all their fault, but they got to do better. So does Patrick. And they got to talk. Bottom line is they got to talk better. Better communication between the line and the quarterback. Let's see. I know I missed a super chat. I'm sure Aaron has already put it in here, but I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get there. Folks, if you're new, make sure you hit the question marks at the beginning of your question like Ryan did here. How come Jones and Clark and the rest of they didn't get any pressures, especially sacks? Isn't that what they get paid to do? Yes, it is. They didn't have their best game. Tano Passanio led in pressures with 3. That's not good. And again, I think it's just that they weren't hyped up. They didn't have the intensity they needed to beat a division rival who was giving them their best game. Now, there is some truth to what Matt Derrick says in that every team is going to give the Chiefs their best game. That is true. But they have to be able to withstand that. That's what being a Super Bowl champion is. And that's, quite frankly, why it's really hard to repeat. So they got to get that figured out. Adam, does Mahomes need to tuck and run rather than throw the 7 or 8 yard coverage? Yes. Especially that interception, he could have ducked to the left and taken off for 15 yards. That is something. And he's getting better at that. He's running some. I think he's running sometimes because he's bailed the pocket too early and then he has to run. There are times when he needs to just let the play develop and then take off and run. So it's still an ongoing process, you guys. He's been a starter for like 3 years. Let's allow him. What we know about him is that he still has room to improve. He said that himself. So I think he will get there. Let's see. Looking, Travis Davis, how are you? Are you worried about Travarius Ward? No more than I was. I think the hand's a legitimate injury. I think he needs to get over that, and I think he'll get back to normal. Why does Frank Clark keep going way past the quarterback? Because they're pushing him out. They know that he wants to come up field first. So I want to see him, engage inside a little bit more. When they walk Damian up to the line, I want to see Frank slide in a little bit so he can attack the B gap, the inside shoulder of the tackle, and let Damian set the edge. I think that will help some of that too. But Frank's just got to be able to get down a little bit, get under a little bit more as well. But he's going to keep working. He's going to get him. Highlander, with Watkins hurt, can D-Rob or Pringle fill the role of the X? Hopefully it'll be Pringle. I think they're probably going to give some snaps to Demarcus Robinson, though. Aaron, feel free to boot anybody that's giving you static. I'm only seeing bits and pieces in here. So there's Sanitary. Okay, I got a little bit caught up. There's Highlander. Okay, good. Question. Norman, how are you? Do we look at getting a replacement for Semele? Yeah, I just don't know that there's anybody out there. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be interesting. Jacob Tapua, is Andy not calling enough short routes? It feels like many of the long routes are so the Pat does his thing. Yeah, and it's not so much that you have to call all short routes. I think he has to modify some of that so that he still has the over routes that he likes, but he has more of an outlet across the middle at the 8-yard range. So it's not just a dump to the flat or a deep route. Patrick is who Patrick is, though, and he wants to press the ball down the field. And that's a big part of the offense. So it's not going to go away. I just want to see it augmented a little bit. Aaron. Okay, here it is. Super chat, Daniel Riddick. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Aaron. My personal bailout. Appreciate it, dude. When Snead returns, who would you rather see him tandem with, Ward and Snead or Breeland and Snead, along with Matthew and Thornhill? Quite frankly, what I would do is put Snead in the slot. I would put Breezy and Ward on the outside and run with those three. Love what Fenton's doing. He's probably been their best guy so far, so that's really hard for me to say. But if this continues, if Ward doesn't snap back, then I would go Fenton out or Snead out, Fenton nickel, Breezy out. That's what I would do. Man, it's a good problem to have when you have four guys that are there. I still feel that I think Snead can eventually become a number one. I think Ward still has that opportunity, but it's starting to slip away from him. So I still feel that they need a takedown, all-out corner to take half the field away. That's my personal opinion. Aaron, Daniel, thank you both. Dr. Sanitary, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Why is the team so comfortable continuing to throw Neiman out there? I don't hate the guy, but he's good. Specialties, he's not done well in the coverage. It's because he did things for them in coverage last year, and they're hoping that he can pick it back up because of the slow start of the season, the lack of OTAs, etc. I think it's about time to pull the plug, though, and I want to see Willie play in his place in the nickel. Aaron, second super chat for Curtis. Thank you. Appreciate that. Do you know where we stand with down and distance? It seems like we're always behind. Yes. You saw him run a little bit on first down to some success. They didn't do that consistently. There's a lot of stabs that put them behind the sticks because Patrick doesn't really care about the sticks. I would like to see that modified a little bit too. At the end of the day, it's just about your feel. Jerome, I've talked about Dan quite a bit tonight. So let's see here. Doctor, thank you very much. Okay. Lucky Croc. 108. I don't know if that's Australian or Croc blank, but cheers. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support as from all the super chatters. Thank you very much. Seems like the first time in this era that we've had no second half adjustments. Yeah, I noticed a couple of things that changed, but you're right. It wasn't wholesale. It seemed that they really felt, the coaching staff as well as the players, that the first half was them not executing and that they should have been up more. And that's true. 2 penalties called back 2 scores. So I can see that argument, but I would have liked to see them get more creative in the second half on both sides of the ball, quite frankly. Ralph, if we trade all or draft capital for Penny School out of Oregon, would you be upset? Yes. That's just too much for that particular player. If Penne is the tackle that I'm thinking of, that's all draft picks. Yeah, that's way too much. I could see taking him with one, though, but I don't think he'll be there when the Chiefs pick. Big Chief Sean, folks. Nice to see you, Sean. Folks, check out Sean's channel as well, Big Chief Sean. He will give you stuff that I'm not very good at giving you, the fan experience. That's Sean. I'm terrible at that. So please make sure you go sub to Sean. Let's see. Jerome, is Dirty Dan a liability? He is deep. I like him in the robber and forward. I don't like him out top. That is a problem for me. What's Carr's record now against KC? 3-46? Yeah, something like that. Let's see. Claude, what's your very early need KC needs to address this next off season? I still think it needs to be a corner. I'm not sure if Travarius Ward is going to accept the contract that they can afford to give him. Breezy's on a 1 year. Fenton and LJ aren't enough. You need more. So I would still look at that. Tackle, guard, I'm fine with those as well. But probably the number one is corner or linebacker. You need more at the linebacker crew. And if it goes on this way, that's going to overtake and become the number one. Jeremy, wasn't the interception on 4th and 20 or so? I don't remember the yardage. That's a good point. It was a 4th down. I didn't think it was that far. Maybe you're right, and I'm incorrect. Either way, still wanted to see him do something that wasn't so throw it up in the air and hope that Travis can get to it. And you'll see why when I show you the pass rush. Why are we having such problems stopping the run? It's the same old. Linebackers aren't filling aggressively. The D-line is getting moved off the ball in some places. Chris Jones' swim move is still deadly, but there are some times when he gets doubled and gets moved out of there, and you can't replace a body when two guys are driving it forward. You got to stand your ground. You got to dig in. And that's just not his game plan. He's a pass rusher. So, and again, nobody played with the intensity that required to win the other day. So, okay. I think I got all the super chats. Please, if I didn't, let me know. It looks like we are at the end of our time, and I finally got caught up. Thank you, Aaron, for keeping me on the straight and narrow. Thank you for all of your super chats. And I appreciate everything that you guys have done for us. We're having a good time. Oh, here's another question. We'll answer that in a second. But I want to finish this thought. We're having a good time expanding the channel, giving you more things. We want to make it so that when we roll out the memberships, it's worth it. And some of that content will be very, very specific for the members. So I'm kind of excited about that too. It's going to be a long off season too. And part of that will be my draft coverage and my frank thoughts rather than my professional thoughts. So keep that in mind as well. Last question, Jim Murphy. In the 2021 draft, should we get someone on the D-line to help stop the run or someone on the O-line to help with the run? My first choice will be neither. It'll be a linebacker or a corner. But my second round pick and maybe my third round pick might address both of those, Jim. Great question. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your Monday night. The Chargers are currently winning, so go root for the Saints. I hope you guys have a good night. We'll be back tomorrow. Stats. We'll have film on Wednesday, film on either Thursday or Friday, and then we'll have the game plan on Sunday night, getting ready for the Monday night football game. And we'll do some kind of reaction. It probably won't be the big thing that I do on Sundays. So hope you guys have a great week. We will catch up next time, and I'll talk to you then.